In this video, I'm gonna review all the wonders. Are they any good? Should you build them or should you steal them? Are you looking for a specific wonder? Maybe there's a link for it. Maybe the description can help you. Stonehenge can be very good, but normally the AI is going to get it. If you get it, it can be really good because there aren't many wonders early in the game that will give you a great profit. You can use that great profit to either get a religion or to build the religion special building. And there aren't that many opportunities for trying to get a great profit really early in the game. Unless you're Egypt, you can build the obelisk and try and get a profit. But other than that, you generally have to wait until you can build temples with a religion that you already have. And then it still takes a while, and it's only one priest that you can actually get. The addition of a monument in every city, that is helpful if you are not a cultural leader. If you are a cultural leader, then you're already getting culture in all your cities, and you're not going to be building monuments anyways. If you're not a cultural leader, then it saves you the worry about having to build monuments or getting like a library in all of your cities. So it can be very useful. This is just very difficult to get, and you have to decide whether you want this or soldiers normally. If you don't have the opportunity to do a rush, this could be very good to try and set your little country up. The Apostolic Palace. Now, this is probably the most important wonder in the game, in my opinion. The ability to get diplomacy for a single religion is very, very good. There's a way that you can cheese the Apostolic Palace to win very, very quickly. You can use it to control your allies and create, gang up wars, crusades, where everyone becomes friends with each other because you're all trying to destroy the infidels. And you get +2 production for all the religious buildings, which make the religion buildings a very good reason to build them, because they pay for themselves pretty quickly at that point. Oftentimes, though, it is not necessary to build this yourself. You can normally let someone else build it. The reasons to build this yourself is that it will obsolete with mass media, and if you're the one who owns it, you can control when mass media is discovered, which can be never. And then you can have it forever, and it will never obsolete, and you can control the game through religion. By expanding a lot, having a lot of population numbers, and controlling the votes. This is our first religion building. Founding a religion and spreading it is really beneficial. All you have to do is get priests and spread the religion. Building these also makes the religion more likely to spread, which helps you generate even more money. This is an economy builder. Basically, you can save your economy with this. You can become an economic superpower early in the game with founding religions, and that you can make that last until the end of the game. You can win games by founding religions, even if it isn't the most popular one. The Colossus is another very good wonder. The issue is that it will obsolete with astronomy, but it gives +1 gold to water tiles, which can make water tiles very, very lucrative, especially if you are a financial leader. You're talking about 3 gold if you're non-financial, or 4 gold per tile or per coast tile if you are a financial leader. And that can give you a ton of money. If you just build coastal cities and build very tall in those cities, you can get a ton of money in these cities. You normally just have to focus on keeping the cities happy and healthy. Daimao is another religion special building. Eiffel Tower, free broadcast tower in every city. I mean, this is good if you're going for a cultural victory, like a late cultural victory, or even just trying to win border wars. But other than that, it's not necessary. You don't even need this for a cultural victory if you just want to build the broadcast towers yourself, because you don't need them in every single city. Great library. This can be good, mostly if you have the pyramids and can use representation for those extra boosts on the scientists. Basically makes the scientists twice as good. But this building is pretty costly. The Great Lighthouse is another one of the best buildings because it gives +2 trade routes in all coastal cities, and that can make coastal cities profitable to just build. You can build your economy by just building settlers and settling everything. And that is helpful because it is an alternate route of expanding your economy through production. Normally, if you were trying to expand your economy through production, you would have to get the alphabet or currency so that you could build research or wealth. But with the Great Lighthouse, you don't even need to get technologies that far. This is a pretty early tech to try and get, and then you can just start building a really early game economy. So this is really powerful to try and set yourself up well in the early game. The Great Wall. So the Great Wall prevents barbarians from entering borders on the continent that it's built. It doesn't prevent enemy barbarian galleys from entering your water, and it doesn't do anything for your islands. But if there are barbarians in the game, this will make a very big difference. Also, it gives 100% great general merchants inside the cultural borders. If you expect to be attacked several times throughout the game, this can be a really good building because it means you'll get twice as many great generals. This is actually, because the cost is so low for this building, especially if you have stone, you can actually justify building this based on the fact that it is the only way really early in the game to get great spies, which you can use to try to start setting up a spy economy very early. You can actually use it to set up a spy economy right when you get alphabet, because that's when you can build the spies and start stealing technology. So there are applications for this even when barbarians are turned off. Hagia Sophia, workers build improvements 50% faster, but it obsoletes with steam power. This is normally not around long enough to be really effective. It's nice if you have it, but because it means that you don't have to build as many workers, but it's not a huge factor, and it's also like really expensive. It's kind of disappointing to see. The Hanging Gardens, +1 health in all cities, and that's permanent, and +1 population in all cities at the time that you build it. But you have to build an aqueduct beforehand, which makes this pretty expensive to build, because the aqueduct is pretty expensive to build. And, it's really only beneficial, like really, really beneficial, if you have a lot of cities. I mean, you can build it so that the AI or your opponent who has a lot of cities doesn't get it. but other than that, there isn't too much reason to really focus on this. Kashi Viswanath is another religion building, same as the Khan Miao. I don't know how to say that. The Kremlin. Now the Kremlin, you get it with communism, obsoletes with fiber optics though, so it's not around for a super long time. But this is kind of like early late game. You can have this. Minus 33% hurry production cost. So that can make rushing with universal suffrage a lot cheaper. That can actually make trying to build a gold economy viable. If you want to build a lot of cities and use trade routes to make those cities viable, and then set the wealth slider to 100% and then just use the money to build everything in those cities, namely banks and grocers and markets, to try and get even more money from them. This can actually turn into a strategy. It can be hard to get though, because it's all the way at communism, and the AI will probably get this first. It's also a very expensive building. Mahabadi, another religion building, obviously very good. Ajita Havram, again very good. The Oracle, oh this is a wonderful building. It's not that expensive, and it gives you a free technology. That's really huge, especially if you time it correctly and you plan ahead what free technology you want to get. It's an early game thing, so there's a decent chance that you can get this if you are rushing for it. And you can get a really expensive technology trying to do this. And that expensive technology could set you up to, really take advantage of your situation. So this can be game winning, actually, this Oracle. The Parthenon plus 50% birth rate in all cities, but it obsoletes with the scientific method. So this is only an early game build-in. And I don't think that normally in the early game you're going to have a lot of birth rate in cities. It's also very, very expensive. Yeah, it's hard to justify this unless, for some reason you actually have a city with a ton of food and therefore it can support a lot of specialists and it has a high birth rate. Otherwise it's pretty hard to justify something like this. The Pentagon, this is probably one of the best buildings, even though it comes on kind of late. The +2 experience in all cities is really good because it means that you don't have to rely on having either theocracy or vassalage anymore. Normally it's fine to have theocracy though. So I've noticed that its usefulness can be a little overstated because you have a barracks in a city, then you have theocracy to get to 5 experience, and that gives you 2 promotions on a new unit. With the Pentagon, you could have the 5 experience and not have theocracy anymore. However, the alternatives are organized religion, which has a really high maintenance cost. If you're trying to construct a lot of buildings, it can be very useful. And in that case, you would want it as opposed to theocracy. Pacifism, it's, if you want pacifism, I don't know why you want the Pentagon, because it gives, the Pentagon is good for if you're building units, and if you have pacifism, you're not building units. And then free religion. I mean, free religion can be helpful if religion is a very big contesting point in diplomacy in your game. So maybe getting the Pentagon frees you up so that instead of theocracy, you can get free religion. And then with free religion, you improve your relations with everyone. The pyramids. Okay, so the pyramids are one of the best buildings in the game. They're extremely expensive though. They can take a really long time to build, but if you get them, even if you capture them from someone, you can get representation immediately. And getting representation when you don't have to deal with monarchy early in the game is extremely good, because it means that you can get a ton of research from specialists, namely scientists that you're going to obtain by building libraries. And then you can get so much research that you actually pull ahead and win the game. The pyramids wins games by doing it very early. And, you know, if it's too much for you to build, but someone close enough, if you can capture this, you should probably capture this, because it provides such an advantage. Okay, the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel never obsoletes, which actually makes it quite good. It gets +5 culture to all of your religion buildings in the country. And because religion is very helpful, you will probably have a religion. And if your religion is the one that the Apostolic Palace created, or is associated with, then you are probably building temples and monasteries to take advantage of the production. But now all those cities are getting +5 culture in each of those buildings. And that can really help to expand your borders, to fight border wars with other countries. You can take cities because of how much extra culture this gives at the point of the game when there's not a lot of culture to go around. Long term, the +2 culture for specialists, like later in the game, you might have a lot of specialists. Like, getting this really opens up the opportunity for a cultural victory. If you are going for a cultural victory, you should probably do a check to see if you can try and get this, because your task will be much easier if you get the Sistine Chapel. The space elevator. Okay, so in that regard, the Sistine Chapel can actually win games. It's really good. The space elevator. So the space elevator gives 50% spaceship production in all cities. It's kind of late, you know, obviously. You do this because you want to win a space victory. It's normally just like if you're going for a space victory and you can build this, it will save you production to do it. So you should do it. But it's very rare that a game actually goes that long. So it's very rare to see something like this actually be useful. It's also like weirdly restricted. I mean, I guess there's a lore reason about why it can only be built at a maximum latitude, but like, it's a weird restriction and there's not much you can do about that. You know, if your country isn't in that area, then, you know, joke's on you. Spiral minaret. This is really good. Again, same idea with the Apostolic Palace. This can justify building these buildings, the temples and the monasteries, if you are already building them because of the Apostolic Palace. Then getting the spiral minaret and the University of St. Cor is just in your best interest, and you should try and do it if you can, because the cost is well worth it. The main difficulty is getting it before the AI do. That can be difficult. It does obsolete with computers, but by the time it obsoletes, you have gained the benefits to win the game because of it. If you get this one and one of the other ones, these buildings can really carry you. Statue of Liberty, +1 free specialist in all cities on this continent. The thing is, this is a really expensive building. and that can make it difficult to justify. Even with +1 free specialists in all cities. If you're a really big country, then you can do it. But then oftentimes the AI is just going to get this before you. It can be difficult to try and be the first one to actually obtain this. But if you do, and you have a large country, especially, you can have representation at this point, guaranteed. So, it can provide a lot of extra culture, or, research potential, even production, because you could get like engineers in all the cities. Is it going to win you any games? I find that unlikely, because it's really only going to be good if you have a lot of cities to begin with, and if you have a lot of cities to begin with, you might not have needed it to win the game anyways. Statue of Zeus, 100% war wariness. I think this is kind of bad. I guess if you're being defensive and you want to try and make peace with people, then this can be helpful. It's not helpful if you're the aggressor. Trying to declare war on people for pillaging or to bully them into accepting peace deals that they give you their money, it's not that useful, because they don't have a lot of money to begin with, and you're going to suffer a lot with the diplomatic problems. And then also, you have to wait for currency to actually be able to bully people. And then they actually have to have money, which normally they'll lose all their money in the war. So, yeah, maybe if you're defensive, it's a way to end the war early. Taj Mahal starts a golden age. Depending on, it's a pretty expensive building, so depending on what the benefits are of you getting the golden age, it can be worth it. Otherwise, it's not. Maybe you build it so that an enemy who can really benefit from a golden age doesn't get a golden age. The Temple of Artemis. This is another really early wonder. You can build it with polytheism. However, the benefits aren't that great. 100% trade route yield. You're gonna have a lot of trade route yield in the beginning of the game anyways. It obsoletes with the scientific method, so that benefit is gonna go away pretty quickly. And it's really expensive, so it's difficult to justify that trade route yield actually being useful. +1 free priest. A free priest is going to give you +1 production, +1 gold. Mainly, you get the +3 birth rate. So this is an opportunity to try and get a priest early. However, the +2 great people that it gives is for a merchant, which, it would make a lot more sense if this was a priest. But because it's a merchant, you don't know if you're going to get a priest or you're going to get a merchant. A merchant is still really good. You can make a lot of money with a merchant. But normally you want this because you have a religion that you're trying to get a priest. Maybe if you fail to be the one that gets Hinduism, but you researched it trying to get Hinduism, you could build the Temple of Artemis to try and save yourself from that wasted research early in the game. But it's going to be a hole to dig yourself out of at that point. Three Gorge Dam. This is really, 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 really good. Because if you have a really big country on a continent, you don't have to build the coal plants everywhere. The coal plants are going to, add unhealthiness all over the place that normally you have to build like hospitals everywhere to try and offset. And this is going to eliminate all those problems. Plus, you're going to save on all the production cost of having to build those coal plants and the hospitals. So it's really great to try and get. The issue is that you have to get plastics in order to build this, and by the time you get plastics, you've probably already built factories and coal plants in a bunch of your major cities. So it's unlikely that this is going to provide too much benefit. unless you start capturing a bunch of cities after the fact, because they won't have their coal plants. University of Sankor, similar to the, where was it? The the spiral minaret. They said that this gives research. This is also really, really good. It's a little annoying because it will lock you into research. You probably have to become a research country at that point, which means no spy economy, which can be rough. Versailles. So if you have a big country and you can benefit from another capital, then you try and do this. But it's a really expensive building, so you might not get it. There's plenty of reasons to build this. Plenty. You just, I think it's difficult to get. And Divine Right, you only research, the only reason to research Divine Right is if you are trying to get Islam, or you are trying to get Versailles or the Spiral Minaret. Normally you don't try to get Versailles, but I mean it can really help your economy if you're in a situation that warrants it. Wall Street, 100% gold. So you can build Wall Street in your religion founding city if you have one, and then it becomes really great. Then you can found corporations in the city that has Wall Street, and those corporations can make a ton of money. That's how you use Wall Street. Don't waste your Wall Street. And finally, we have West Point. So West Point is going to give 4 experience points. The issue is that this is going to have conflict with Ironworks and Heroic Epic. You'll normally want both of these in a single city, and then you'll just have to end up putting West Point in your next best city after that. Maybe it's different on like normal speed when the units don't cost as much to build, because in that case Ironworks and Heroic Epic might be overkill, but West Point in that case, you could build it in one of the cities that have this, the Heroic Epic or Ironworks. But on Marathon, this normally gets relegated to a second city after that. And okay, that's all the wonders. That's all these wonders. After talking about all those wonders, do you know what would be wonderful? If you would leave a like, or subscribe, or leave a comment.